Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to thank first and foremost the organizers of this workshop for having facilitated the participation of producer organizations, and because we actually had 3 spaces, the panel sessions twice, and now I'm actually here making this keynote address. The topic at hand is actually very important to us as producers in Africa and Eastern Africa because it targets our membership. Because if you look at our membership as the Eastern African Farmers Federation and most of our networks in Africa, 80% of our membership is small scale. And if you look at issues that we are dealing with in regions, food insecurity is of greatest concern to us because it actually touches on the small farmers. The East African Farmers Federation is within Eastern African Community region and also COMESA. That's how we actually access our membership. And also IGAD, which is actually the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, which captures quite a number of countries in East Africa and also the Horn of Africa. Now, it means as a network, we are in a region that is highly food insecure. But most important, we are actually in a region where agriculture is actually very important. On average, if you look at countries that we cover, 24% of their GDP is actually from agriculture. 70% of employment is also from agriculture. And if you look at export, 28% is actually from agriculture. And also provision of raw materials for industry, that is 50 to 70%. So to the region, I think agriculture is actually very important. And it is actually the primary activity of all our small-scale farmers. So unfortunately, the region is highly food insecure, if you look at it critically. For example, if you look at IGAD, that has a number of countries, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. We are actually recipients of 40% of world food aid to a population that is, compared to actually world population, to a population of actually 3%, meaning that a region that has 3% of world population is actually receiving 40% of world food aid. So this is actually a major concern as far as this region is concerned. If you look at most of the sub-Saharan Africa, and also taking case of COMESA, which has a population of 400, the food we actually eat mostly as people of the region, and most of the sub-Saharan Africa, that is rice, maize, wheat, beans, pulses, these represent 92% of the food we actually import, meaning that if you look at critical food stuff we are actually eating in the region, most of it is actually being imported. And there is actually growth around importation. In COMESA is actually around 13% annually. So meaning that importation of food is actually growing every year. If you look at dependency of food aid, from the year 2000, demand has actually over tripled. If you look at the amount of money actually going into food aid is actually a lot. So for us in a region where the population is growing at a very high rate, that is 2.5% to 3.5%, now this level of food situation is actually not sustainable. And it actually poses serious concerns as far as we small farmers are actually concerned. Now, our concern as organizations is the fact that many of our small-scale farmers are already food aid dependent. It has actually captured the small producers. Food aid catchment has been expanding because even for the small farmers that used to produce enough for subsistence are now no longer able to do so. So many of them cannot actually be able to feed themselves. The consequence is what we actually see all around: hunger, poverty, and having no surpluses to actually connect the small farmers to the markets. Economic activities that are normally triggered by agriculture performing, they are stagnant. The service sector that can actually For our economies to perform, the agricultural sector and especially small-scale agriculture has to perform. By investing in small-scale agriculture, we shall be ensuring rural communities of employment from agriculture itself, from the service sector, and also we shall actually be creating surpluses that can actually assist our small farmers, add value and be able to actually earn better income. So it's actually important that we actually get agriculture growing. We small producers, together with the farm organizations in the continent, we have supported our governments around NIPAN and also the CADI framework as a way of actually getting our economies performing. In other words, an agricultural-led growth to be able to actually achieve or realize the Millennium Development Goal number 1, that is actually on hunger and poverty. So we have actually declared our support to governments in line with the CADI framework. Now, for agriculture to perform, therefore, we need to actually address quite a number of challenges. We have globalization and liberalization. Because even as we talk about markets as small farmers, we have focused on regional markets. And we are saying regional markets should actually be open to ourselves. And when they are actually open to ourselves as farmers of the region, definitely there will be issues around competition based on efficiency and the capacity of individual farmers from different countries to be able to compete. So there are effects of regional integration. We have degradation of our natural resources. We have agricultural research and technology that needs to drive what we do. We have conflicts that have actually affected farmers seriously, especially in the region where East African Farmer Federation operates, the Great Lakes, and also the Horn of Africa. This has actually been a major problem. There is also empowerment of women and youth in agriculture. This is actually important. And we also have health issues. HIV and others have already gone rural, and this is actually affecting the performance of the small farmers. We need also to address other challenges, as you know, that have actually emerged since the food crisis of 2008. We have the cost of farm inputs. In fact, if you look at the level of, although we are told that there has actually been a decrease in the price of inputs, if you compare this to where we started in 2008, they are still 40% more expensive. So meaning that they're actually not getting any cheaper to the producers. There are issues of land grabbing. There is also production of food crops for biofuels around our neighborhoods. There is also issues around commodity prices, fluctuations and so forth. So these are issues that we also have to deal with as small farmers. Fortunately, as far as our region is concerned, that is Eastern Africa and also very much of West Africa, governments have actually aligned themselves to the CADI process. In fact, many of the national governments have already put together CADI compacts, and that is important. For us, Congo was actually lagging, but they have actually done a good job. Eritrea is already there, so I think we are doing okay in the region. The ECOWAS region has actually been doing quite well. They are already actually on the regional compact, and I think that is good progress. We see CADI as a very important framework, especially for purposes of reinforcing, strengthening, policies and strategies on agriculture. Our governments have actually had policies and strategies on agriculture, but through this process, I think that those processes have actually been strengthened because CADI has actually brought on board stakeholders, and I think that is actually very important. We also know that some national governments have already formulated investment plans, and even some have actually been funded. For example, Ethiopia, Rwanda have been funded through the Global Fund on Agriculture and Food Security Program. So there is progress. And those that already have the compacts, they're actually working on post-compact activities, which is actually mainly formulation of investment plans. And this is where we have actually encouraged our national farm organizations to be involved so that the programs actually come out in a manner that they will actually be able to benefit and get agriculture working at the national level. But whatever developments that take place in agriculture, they will not help transform small-scale agriculture without a production model that ensures organization of small-scale agriculture and also organization of producer organizations themselves. We got to have a model that actually works for the small-scale farmers. Farmers in Africa have been able to organize themselves at national. That's where we get our membership from. Regional level, we have 5 sub-regional networks, and we actually have PAFO, which has actually captured all the sub-regions, and we actually have an apex at the level of the African Union. So this is actually quite a lot of work. But organization alone will not be able to change agriculture until we have the capacity to actually facilitate changes in the way small-scale agriculture is actually managed. And this is this is exactly why we need partnership with all of you researchers, so that we actually have a model that actually works for small-scale farmers, and is actually important. The East African Farmers Federation and others like ROPA and all the other sub-regional networks were main players in coming up with what we refer to as the Pretoria Declaration. In fact, the Pretoria Declaration triggered formation of PAFO, because we came together as producers of Africa, and we wanted to actually present our vision on the kind of agriculture that should be developed in NIPAD. That time we didn't have CADIP clearly, it was NIPAD. And we had the steering committee in South Africa that was actually working on issues around agriculture. We agreed during this particular meeting in South Africa that our goal should be towards a modern and sustainable agriculture, which ensures socio-economic and also ecological functions, and able to guarantee family solidarity, equity, and sustainable management of natural resources. In addition, we would like our small-scale agriculture to be productive and competitive, and therefore seek its modernization to ensure sustainable food security, sovereignty at all levels, and as a consequence, restore the dignity of the African producers and people, and also ensure development that respects our values and cultures. It's important. As long as we move around begging for food, we have no dignity as a people. And as farmers and as the majority of people who are actually out there in the rural areas, we would like to see this one change, because it is actually us who are actually receiving handouts, and yet we are actually sitting on land. So this is one statement we actually put together as farmers before even the formulation of the CADI process, and we wanted that one captured as the governments actually decide to actually implement the NIPAD pillars. And we are happy that governments actually decided to actually implement the agricultural pillar first within other pillars they actually had within NIPAD. To ensure transformation of small-scale agriculture and the commercialization, we must approach production through trade. We had a case of Zambia here where, government promoted and production of maize, and then there was this mountain. Meaning that we should not only approach production just per se. I think we actually need to actually link it with trade. So we are saying, let's address issues of low productivity through trade, so that farmers can actually see the opportunities, and as a result, they actually have that motivation to actually get in production. This requires that we strengthen our capacity as producer organizations to be able to organize ourselves more effectively and be able to negotiate and even partner with states and other actors in defense of our interests, ensure improvement of the economic and social situation of our producers, and fully participate in the formulation and also implementation of policies in agriculture and other areas that are actually compatible with the work we do around trade and rural development. This is actually compatible. It has to link up with those other processes that we actually have at the grassroots level. Although our producer organizations previously mainly targeted lobbying and advocacy, there has now been a shift in the operations dictated by the current changes and trends in the agricultural sector. Yeah, there is a different discourse that is going around. And as producer organizations, we have to commit ourselves to modernization and transformation of the small-scale agriculture. Our goal, in addition to lobbying and advocacy, is to address low productivity in agriculture and ensure that our producers can actually do business. They can trade at the national level and also at the regional level. So the issues of trade are actually coming out very seriously, business, and it is actually amongst our producers themselves. Our focus is now on regional markets and commodity trade as producers. Commodity trade is expected, as you all know, to expand tremendously in Africa between now and 2030, significantly beyond. Shall we actually be organized enough to be able to take advantage of that? And because there will be no gap, others will actually take advantage of it. If you look at the regional program of Europe, CAP, they are doing reforms, renovation, putting in processes around value addition, and I'm sure they are targeting markets. So if we are not ready, this space will not remain empty. Somebody will actually take advantage of it. So this is why it is actually that important that we actually get organized to be able to capture such opportunities. There are reforms going on in our regions and around harmonization. There are processes taking place in regions facilitated by regional trade processes and integration processes. There are customs union. We have common markets in case of East Africa. There are monetary unions, and there are policies to address standards and other trade barriers. So something is actually happening around the regions. Our regional economic community is actually doing some work. Unfortunately, we have good partnership with them, meaning that we can actually be able to operate closely together. The regional farmer networks are working closely with regional economic communities to address these issues, as I have mentioned. We farm organizations now have to assist our farmers, and especially the small-scale farmers, to understand and engage in all processes around regional trade, regional integration, and in addition, help them overcome challenges around identification of opportunities. And it's simple. If farmers in Tanzania can know when we don't have maize in Kenya, green maize in Kenya to roast, they can actually ensure that they service this market where people are roasting maize all over the place, and at that time Kenya has nothing. So these are some of the areas that we need to address so that we can actually take advantage of comparative advantage of our producers without a lot of costs. And I think this is actually very important as far as we are concerned. To participate in commodity trade, our farm organizations have to organize themselves and even operate differently now. That's why I say things have changed. And therefore, we as producer organizations have also to change somehow in the way we actually do our business. We have to instill entrepreneurship in our small farmers for them to be able to do business agriculture, commercialization, transform. We have to work around that as organizations. This implies that organizations that have been involved, as I said, in lobbying and advocacy and campaigns have, in addition, to provide economic services as capacities to members for them to be able to be successful entrepreneurs around agriculture. And this is actually important. And that's why I actually talked about, credits. Now that we are thinking commercialization, can this be accompanied by good money? So that when we think of giving a farmer money, a small farmer, the thinking is also not small. This farmer needs $1 because he's small. And we are talking transformation. These are some of the things that we need to actually make sure that we actually discuss and make changes. We should also not only encourage, but also demand that our farmer organizations establish business clusters within themselves to enable them address the current challenges in production and trade in commodities. This is important. We demand that from our membership. Those of us that are on networks down there, we demand that those changes actually take place. Our members want to see tangible benefits coming from the organizations, benefits that will help them change for the better their economic situation and also improve livelihoods. This is what, otherwise if we don't do this, we don't shift, we lose membership. They are looking for tangible benefits, and these benefits must ensure that their pockets are actually better. They are actually getting better incomes. And that is why, as East African Farmers Federation, we are looking for innovative ways of assisting farmers establish business clusters. We have revisited the issue of cooperatives. We have actually put together a process. We have a think tank, and we have actually packaged a cooperative model that we want to market around East African Community and COMESA to streamline our national cooperative acts and rules, so that producers can actually be able to go back to cooperatives and be able to put together legitimate. So because we are talking about legitimate, well-organized business clusters. And if you look at our regions, the only organization of producers that has acts of parliament around our regions are cooperatives. And if we can actually assist in reforming that and perfecting that so that it works for the small farmers, we can actually be able to use that as lobby organizations to get the farmers to actually put together business clusters that can actually be able to attract business and also ensure that they are actually connected to trade. We have also put our development partners on notice regarding this reality, and all the projects we are now negotiating with most of them in support of farm organizations at national and regional level are around institutional development, so that we can actually be able to provide economic services. They are also around policies that will actually be able to drive trade. They are also around entrepreneurship, so that we can actually be able to get small-scale farmers actually doing business. So this, for us, is actually very important, so that we can actually be able to make sure that we actually trigger productivity through trade. Taking the case of East African Farmers Federation, we are providing capacities to our members to enable them ensure that their producers are actually carrying out production along commodity lines, and also ensure that they become key players by strengthening their position along the value chains. In fact, we have actually had trainings where we found on value chains with the small farmers. So we are actually working around this one. This is the only way we can ensure that farmers have power at the marketplace and access to profitable markets. They have to move higher along the value chain. Yeah. Finally, now that we actually organized, although we need to do more, we are now organized. Our challenge is to continue strengthening ourselves and manage ourselves in a manner that we are actually able to meet the demand coming for our membership, and especially demands that are actually current. We have to be current. We have also to actually manage our members' expectations, because they expect a lot from their organizations. Our approach to business must change, as I have said, and our long focus on problems created by the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the subs, must change. We should not stay in 70s talking about subs and the World Bank and whatever. We must change. These institutions, including our own governments and even development partners, have already taken stock of their previous actions, and many of them have actually acknowledged failures, and that is important. They have also reformed themselves to be able to address the current issues, realities, and also be able to focus better on way forward. So we farmer organizations have to do the same, we must ensure that we are relevant and of benefit to our membership. To be able to do this, we need a lot of support. We need a lot of support to be able to succeed. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening to me.